welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm author Susie Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest who is being a little mysterious. His name is Saengard, and we'll get to him in just a quick second. First of all, Mike, how is it in your author world?
Well, we talked a little bit before we started the podcast today. I started picking peas on Monday, and I had a friend of mine that helped me. We started in the morning. It rained on us. We had to stop. We picked it back up again. It finished around noon. Then I spent most of the rest of the day shelling. My wife, Melanie, says, "Why do you keep doing this?" And so because it's hard, it's hard work. So today, which is 2 days later, 4 more bushels of peas and spent virtually the entire day picking and shelling peas. And so tomorrow we will be at the Mississippi Comic Con, and it's a 3-day Comic Con, which is in Jackson, Mississippi, at the Convention Center in downtown Jackson. And it's a 3-day con, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Friday con starts at 3, is over at 8. And then the Saturday and Sunday, if you're familiar with Comic Cons, follows pretty much the same format. As far as in the morning, it starts at, I believe, at 10 on Saturdays, over at 6. And then Sunday, it starts at 11 and is over at 5. So it's a 3-day con. And we're going to drive down tomorrow because we've learned from hard experience, if you have to drive a long way and it's a 5-hour drive, that when you get there and you have to unload everything and get everything set up, it's better to get there a day ahead of time and not be running around like a chicken with your head cut off and being tired as well. Also, I am almost finished with my 10th book, which I've been working on I'm good for about a book a year, and kind of pace it. And we talked about this in one of the previous podcasts with critique groups. So I kind of pace it to go along with our critique group. And but I'm excited about that. It'll probably be later this summer before it's finally finished, and hopefully, on Amazon, and I have a complete book. But I'm pretty excited about that. And I guess I'll be seeing you, CJ, at a couple of upcoming cons, the East Texas Comic Con in Longview, which I believe that's in July, isn't it?
Yes, for 18th and 19th, I believe.
18th and 19th. And then again at the Piney Woods Comic Con, which is in Lufkin, Texas. And I believe that's at the end of August, isn't it?
29th and 30th of August, I
think so.
Whatever those weekends are within those dates.
So anyways, for now, and by the way, if you happen to live in the Mount Pleasant area and you need some Purple Hull peas, give me a holler, okay? Because I got plenty.
An overabundance, huh? Okay, so in my author world, as you mentioned, we have East Texas Comic Con, like I said, somewhere in the 17th, 18th, 19th, whatever that Saturday and Sunday is. And then I think it's the 29th and 30th at the end of August, whatever that Saturday and Sunday is Piney Woods Comic Con in Lufkin. And then I think it's the 19th and 20th, I believe, of September is Victoria Comic Con in Victoria, Texas. Those are currently out and have been announced. And I think I can go ahead and announce this. We are toward the end of a book I've been working on with a group of young authors that, I don't know if you guys remember me talking about the Christian Writers Conference that I went to, where I worked with a group of young teens and a couple adults who were in that group as well, of sci-fi writers and fantasy writers. And the whole group, I said, hey, let's get together and work on it. So each one took a chapter up to a certain point, and then I kind of finished off the book. And one of them's taken over and done the map for it. I've done the cover, and it's almost ready to go. It's going to be a trilogy. And so it's almost ready to go. The first book is, and a portion of the proceeds, actually all of the proceeds are going to go to a scholarship for that conference itself for somebody. And so we're pretty excited to get that going. And so that's almost ready to come out. The first book is. And then the trilogy that I'm writing that has my Magic Making Mischief sisters and their hubbies, including me and Super Hubby, that one is almost ready, but it probably will not launch till the spring because I want to make sure that other book gets out and gets the attention that it needs. So we're super excited to get those particular projects up and going and up and moving and ready to fly. Mumby's with us. She says hi, and she's one of my Magic Making Mischief sisters. So she says, "Oh, she's pretty excited for that trilogy to come out." And I actually have a super cool idea with that, which has to go hand in hand with a guest we have coming in September. Her name is Keely, and she has a certain little bookstore called Get Fictional, who does candles that connect to books. And it's a really cool and interesting idea. And we'll talk more when she actually comes in September about that. But today we get to talk about Saengard. Saengard, before you unmute, you remember that issue we were having in the very beginning? We have the same sound issue coming out. I don't know if you can fix that.
I changed my mic. Is that better?
That is better. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a guest today, Saengard, and he is a sci-fi writer. He has a book out. You want to tell him about the book before we get started?
Sure. The book is The World Ender, and it is a science fiction book that dips its toes into the apocalyptic genre or subgenre or blended genre. The world is under threat of an asteroid that is coming in 15 years, and the main character, Gray Cloud, he's a Cherokee and a physicist, inventor, and he creates a power device that will help save the world. But as time goes on and the end is near, he realizes that he's actually part of a global conspiracy that he wasn't aware of. Things take a intense turn, and his family's in jeopardy, and he has to flee. All kinds of crazy stuff happens, and ultimately he has a kind of a character shift that puts him on a revenge arc for those he believes is responsible for all of it.
Right. Mombi says, "Ooh, sci-fi apocalypse, nice." I'm going to get rid of that last comment who snuck in there before the chance to get rid of it. She says, "Ooh, sci-fi apocalypse, nice, very cool."
So how did you get the idea for your book? Is that something you thought about over time, or is there something that triggered it for you?
Yeah, so this story started back in about 1999. And initially it was a comic strip in a free press comic book magazine that we were giving out in Sarasota, Florida. I was living there for a short period of time, and had a couple of real good friends from high school, and we decided to try and make a go of producing comic books for the general masses. As it was kind of a sort of edgy college age type of comic book type stuff. But anyway, that story continued to grow and grow, and that's kind of where it came from. But the original inception of the idea is kind of we've all seen those futures, at least by that time in '99, like Fifth Element. Even like, say, Star Wars, the prequel trilogies. You know, you have flying cars, you have these massive mega cities, and even Blade Runner is a darker version of all of that. But I started, I think, the journey of this story of working my way backwards from that world or that reality, right? So start with flying cars, and and I tried to kind of ground everything in like, is it practical? Like, would this really happen? And besides the technology being a factor, because in Star Wars you have this. Uh, you don't even know the fuel or the power devices unless you go reading into the lore real deep.
Right.
But it just works and things float. So I kind of spent a lot of time. Always been interested in science, and so I wanted to see those kinds of reality come alive, if nowhere else on the page. Um, so in a real world of mega cities and buildings everywhere, you're not going to have flying cars that are just allowed to crash into buildings and fall out of the sky. So if you want to make a world like that, it's going to have to be very controlled, very tight. Physics-based rules, this, that, and the other. So I kept working my way backwards from that end state of a city that does that, all the way to say present day of like, how could we get there from here? And one of the kind of the core pieces of the concept is, you're not going to have, you can do the corporate route of just everybody, the economy and everything, where kind of in the Blade Runner world, right, where people start to coalesce into bigger cities and bigger cities. But I started thinking of kind of a theme of that future technology city, and then the natural pristine world, and that's what led me into this kind of, let's have all technology captured inside of a dome, and then leave the rest of the world to kind of go back to nature. So that's, again, this story is a prequel upon a prequel upon a prequel, and that's, I just figured out where to start this story, but the end of this story is really the beginning of the larger themes that I'm telling through the series. So.
Okay, cool. Now, your picture isn't up here for a reason. Can you explain to those who are watching why and listening why?
To be quite honest, I feel that a degree of separation between me as a person and the stories that I write, I need to have that separation. I can be truer on the page without being a distraction to it. So that's one of probably a few reasons.
Mystery, as Mommy says. So, in this day and age, a lot of times readers like to connect with the author. How are you going to connect with your reader if they don't have any clue of who you are? How do they connect with you?
Well, that's where I'm hoping that the way I carry myself on like social medias. If you go to any of the socials that I'm on, it's usually at Saengard on pretty much all of them. I never post pictures. I never post images of myself, my family, or anything like that. So it's really just my thoughts on the page, and that's kind of where I want to connect in that way.
You think it might be distracting?
Yeah, especially like in the last handful of years, identity has been such a thing, and I'm over it.
Right. So your book's a prequel, and
Yes.
it's a prequel, and obviously it's part of a series. Have you got all that mapped out yet, or is it still a work in progress?
Yeah. So being that this is the first book in the series, I think it's kind of hard to technically call it a prequel, but in my head canon, it is a prequel.
Okay.
But yes, I have. as it stands, I've outlined 10 books in the series. This first book came out when I sat down to write. It's really just tell the story and leave out all the fluff. And I have had some feedback from some folks that it's very tight paced, things move fast, and some readers would like to spend a little bit more time with the characters and whatnot. But it's about at 49K words. So it's on the shorter side of a novel. It's not quite. It's a little bit more than a novella. Um, so, kind of one of my operating thoughts is if I can kind of hit that as a target range for the follow-on stories, um, I might be able to bundle 3 of them into a single book, and that would be like a standard novel length.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
so my 10. Well, so my question is, you said that before we came on that it took you 20 years to write this one. What pace are you looking at getting these next ones out?
Yeah, so that 20 to 25 years has largely been due to learning. Oops, sorry. I don't know where that ding came from. Learning how to write, honestly. I have made my wife go cross-eyed with all the different revisions. So, and she actually had refused to read the most current one until it was published. Because she's like, you keep changing, characters and what they do and this, that, and the other. And I've had the major milestones in each of the stories, and it's just a matter of creating the connective tissue from those moments, those set pieces throughout the stories. So I have, like I said, 25 years is basically just working on the craft to try and make it
right.
readable by people who don't know me. And I think this has opened the door. It's not going to take another 20 years. I'm actually.
But I was kind of wondering what your pace.
Yeah.
Pace
So I'm
was.
currently. I had at the end of the book is I already kind of dropped what book 2 is going to be about in the series. And I've started working on that. I hope to have that done by the end of this year. And I also have, in the last chapter of the book, the story takes, 15 years. It goes through a 15-year gap. But then the last chapter, there's a 10-year time jump. And I decided to go back into that 10-year window and flesh that out. So I am actually kind of at the same time writing two books at this point. So one that's in the series and one that's an extenuation of this book.
So most authors.
Wait, Mom, you have a question before you jump up there. She says, you already have your story mapped out for all 10 books, with book 1 is starting with episode 1 and the backstory?
Yeah, that's the way to look at it, is that this is definitely the start of all of the events. This is the inciting incident for the entire series.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I was just going to say, all of us that our first book, when we first started writing, it's always a learning experience. And, the old thing about, well, I wish I knew then what I know now, so to speak. And so I'm curious as to what you've learned writing your first book that will help, that has helped you, that will help you in the books to come to make them more smoother and to flow better.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, I do a ton of research on just about whatever I'm interested in, which thankfully I'm interested in a lot of science stuff, so I begin to pull that into my story. But I did probably 20 years worth of study of the industry as well. So when I did finally hit the publish button, I feel like I came in with eyes open. I have learned a few things. I initially started with the Amazon. They give you an ISBN, automatically for free.
Sure.
And now that I'm looking at getting off of just the Amazon platform and moving out, at least for the printed copies of the works, using, let's say, Ingram Spark or what have you. I'm going through the steps of buying my own ISBN and updating Amazon so that I don't lose all the reviews and this, that, and the other. That's probably about the only misstep I feel like I've made at this point. But what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know.
Sure. So is your wife? Who do you bet? Is your wife who sort of proofreads your books? Do you have somebody that you bounce your ideas off of? How does that work with you?
I'd say for 99% of the effort, I'm staring at the ceiling, trying to think of what's next. But when I did get to the point of, all right, I think it's good enough, I did have a family friend and a cousin that I handed the book off to and said, "Hey, give me your unbiased opinion. Tell me what's working, what's not working." And I had a list of kind of beta reader questions, and got some great feedback. Made some tweaks to the story, and then that's what you have.
So So it took. If I understood your explanation, how you got to this point, this is a story that you said was 20 years in the making.
At least, yes.
So we can assume, if the reader gets your book, that it will not be another 20 years for the books that follow.
Right. Yeah.
I'm saying that tongue in cheek. I know it's not, but when do you think your next book? What do you have a timetable set for yourself? How you're going to do these 10 books that follow?
Yeah, my target is I'm hoping to have the next one out in November. Cross my fingers, I'll be good on that. Probably like what you stated earlier, either it was on camera or off camera, but about a book a year is, I'm hoping to achieve that.
Do you have any advice for somebody who wants to get into writing sci-fi?
I really don't know. I think the biggest thing that you can do in any endeavor is, the word authentic these days is the word, but true to yourself, right? I am genuinely interested in all areas of science. I do a lot of reading on pretty much every topic. So for me, it was natural. Again, from high school and on, telling stories with interests about, we approach, so, in this day and age, we have the advent of AI. Well, how many stories have we had growing up about AI? We've got Terminators. We had the Spielberg movie AI. We've been teasing out these things, and all those stories have been either, how do we adapt and how do we adjust to these new realities? And we're beginning to see sci-fi become reality, and it's opening up all new discussions about how do we adjust with this new world that we're living in.
So with science fiction, which when I was growing up, that's, I read Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, all the giants, I guess you might say, Frank Herbert, wrote Dune. So there's different levels with what I understand with science fiction. Sounds like what you are trying to write is science fiction a story. Of course, it is fictional, obviously science fiction, but at the same time, it's possible. It's science possible.
Right.
Something that may happen in the future. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Is that close to the mark?
Absolutely, yeah. So you have, hard science fiction like Arthur C. Clarke, and then you have your, I don't know, more speculation, flashy sci-fi, even to the point of Flash Gordon, right? It just is. It looks fancy. Um, I think I'm a little bit more on the hard sci-fi, but I'm not in hard sci-fi for sure. Like you say, science possible. I touch on things without getting deep into it, because also, who wants to read a textbook on how
Yeah,
how we do DNA and this, that, and the other, and how electrons spin? Like, no, it's not a textbook. This is definitely a kind of a pop fiction or a pulp fiction, just with just enough science in there to where you're like, yeah, I could see that happening.
right.
That actually brings up a very good question, which we have just a few minutes for you to answer. Mondi asks, how important do you think being proficient in science is to write sci-fi?
I think if you want to come across as authentic, then I think you need to know some science.
Right. Right.
Just a little bit of research, just enough to cover, what you need to make it just authentic enough, probably, depending on what it is that you're writing about.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you so much, Saengard, for joining us. We really appreciate you and your time. And anybody wants to learn more about him and his writing, just look up Saengard. That's Saengard for those who are listening. Make sure to check him out. I know he's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So check him out on those good things. And his website is Punk City Books. That's PunkCityBooks. Make sure to check them out there. Next week we have Lydia Holly, president of East Texas Writers Guild. So make sure to check us out next week at 4 o'clock Central Time, same time, same place. See y'all then.